Hi everybody, Chris here from Truly Holistic. Now this video today is very centered on fellow healers, people that got the intuitive gift and are here to help humanity, help their own reality and obviously all their clients as well. And it's also based around genes, genetics, DNA, modification to DNA and genetic engineering. So we're going to go through all of that, try and compact it in as much as possible. So I've got notes in front of me, so which I'll use as a guide. So let's get into it. Now I know I watched a video recently in regards to, not only it was to do with the shot, let's just say, in regards to the topic that is a worldwide event currently, phenomena that's currently happening. And, you know, the negative impact of that in regards to modification of our genetic material and DNA, and that we become something that is not human anymore. And we're going to talk about what really a human is too. Because there's a human perspective going on, there's a quantum perspective going on, and they're quite different. Okay? So I had an email from someone who was mentioning that, you know, can we reverse this? You know, as a healer, right? With our gifts. And the answer is definitely yes. Because when we really look at the basis of everything in our reality, everything's energy. And we know that energy doesn't start and finish, it just transforms to another form. Okay? So we've got to use that principle in regards to this, and therefore anything and everything is reversible, right? So let's get into genes and genetics. Obviously, you know, when we're talking about humans and lab coats in the laboratory, we're working on genes and genetic material and DNA, you know, which I guess we could call genetic engineering, is one thing as a human perspective, right? Using the human mind. We know the human mind is limited. That's why, you know, as humanity, we essentially know nothing of the greater picture of what's going on, right? Because we're great observers when we look at science. We're great at observing, okay, but we're lousy at the understanding and knowing of what we are actually observing. Okay, and I've read many studies over a long period of time when I was in the medical field, but also now. And the common words you see in summaries of scientific papers, peer-reviewed, double-blinded, and so on. This may represent that, or might represent that. May and might is uncertainty. They don't know why. They don't have the understanding, they don't have the knowing of what they are actually observing, okay? And that's what the mind does. It gives us a limited capacity. And when we don't have the knowing or the understanding, it creates a state of uncertainty. And out of that state of uncertainty, we create out of fear. Okay? And we're actually creators here. That's why we're here, to create. We're not here to just participate. So if we're creators, whether we're consciously aware of it or not, if we are in that state, we are miscreating. Period. Okay? So when we look at from a quantum perspective, and remember that the future science is quantum physics. Okay? Looking at the greater picture, asking the big questions to therefore get the answers. To get those answers, we're not going to get them with the human mind. We're just not going to get there. Okay? Consciousness is going to take us there. Okay? And they are polarities to each other. There's no common connection between the mind and consciousness. Okay? So from a quantum perspective, even at a human mind perspective, we know that genes, like we have genes and we have certain genetics that have been passed from one generation to the other, but we still know that gene that gene and the expression of that gene is governed by the environment that you create. Okay? Okay, and what we're going to do here, we're going to look from the perspective that we are creating that, because we're creators, we're not participants. Okay, so change that perspective. Because the thing is, when we see ourselves as only participants, we create a state of vulnerability. And as I say, out of vulnerabilities, uncertainty, out of uncertainty, we start to sit within the spectrum of the mind, which is within this electromagnetic spectrum of 0.0035% of every electromagnetic spectrum of light. Nothing. Okay? We need to get out of the state of vulnerability, and we need to see that we're a pivotal aspect of the reality we want to create here. Okay? And if we get enough people doing that, then what about the world that can be formed in front of our eyes? Okay? And that's about learning and understanding your ability as a creator every moment of your existence. Okay? So gene expression is governed by the environment you create for yourself. Okay? So it's in your hands. Okay? It's not a done deal in regards to genes and genetics. Okay? It's up to you. Okay? Now, the world out there, what we see out there, is built on chaos. Okay? It thrives on chaos. It thrives on fear energy. Okay? So as healers, to turn this around, we can't place our state into that chaotic field, that fear state. So we need to get out of vulnerability, don't we? As healers. Everybody does, because we can all do this, right? We can all be a healer. We can become more intuitive. We all have that gift. It's just some of us are more aware of it than others. Okay? So, if you are intuitive, if you are a healer, we feel a responsibility for sure. For sure. But we need to understand our creative ability, what we're capable of, so we don't miscreate. Because miscreation is taking one step, but taking 3 steps back. 1 step forward, 3 steps back. Okay, which creates a loop, an infinite loop, where we just feel like we've got to clear ourselves. You'll do it daily, every day. Okay, in that state. Okay? Instead, we want to create flow, which is not an infinite loop, but an infinite now. Okay, which is the presence of being in the now, which is flow. But we'll get to that. So let's look at DNA. Again, I like to look at things in a very simple way, a very symbolic way. Because again, when we get complex and analytical, where do we go? Into the mind, not the heart, into the mind. Okay. And it leads us down a path which takes us off track. It does. Okay. Now, DNA. What's the basis of DNA? These 2 strands of DNA, right? And these nucleotides between the 2 strands, right? So 2 strands form a vortex. Now, vortex is the geometry of flow. Okay, so these are the basis of that. That aspect of the DNA represents flow. And flow is the state of being where we can connect to our higher aspects of ourself and source self at a higher level, because flow, what brings flow is consciousness, and consciousness brings flow. What does the mind bring? Congestion to that flow. Okay? So, nucleotides. What nucleotides? Coding. Okay? We can also call that light. We can call that consciousness. And we can also call it information. That's right. That's where the word information comes from. It's about geometry. Information. Structure. Okay? So I like to use the analogy of a solar panel, okay? Nucleotides are the solar panels, okay? And this is what we're talking about here is field, okay? And that field has to be in a structured form for it to hold light or information, okay? Now, if that field, or that solar panel, that nucleotide, is unstructured or scrambled because of chaotic energy, okay, that comes from fear, then its ability to hold light is lessened. So for healers, if we're using our intention to heal somebody and they feel better, but within a couple of days they're not feeling so good again, that's not an inability of your healing capability or your intention, but of that person's ability to remain structured so they can hold the intent. Okay? So this comes down to field and light. Light is obviously your connection to your energy, your consciousness, and the field is you here on the quantum perspective as a hologram. You're an interface. Okay? From a human perspective, we're physical, we're a human body. From the quantum perspective, a greater viewpoint, you're an interface, a screen to allow your light to come through to create a reality. Okay? Now, what are the tools, and especially for all your true quantum healers out there, you'll be aware of some of these tools, right? What are the tools that can help you remain more structured? Obviously, we need to see that the difference between the mind and the heart, consciousness, mind, okay? And we want to be here. We don't want to be here because your quantum aspects of you are through the heart. Nowhere else. That's the only pathway. Okay? That's why the heart has a rhythm and a rate to it. It's a beating organ because it's on one end of a vortex, a pathway to you, your true identity. Okay? So you want to be here because you'll be connected, but here you get lost. Okay? So what are the tools that help you to remain structured? In the true quantum healing, with crystalline energy tools, neutralization ring. Neutralization ring inverts entropy. It flips chaotic field or unstructured field into field that is now structured. So chaotic to harmonious field. That's what that tool does. That's its purpose. Okay. And quite a lot we associate that then with the sun ring. Well, what does the sun ring do? Now that the field is structured and can hold light in formation, we have a charger tool that brings light in. Because what is it? It's a sun. In our reality, what does the sun symbolize? It's our light source, energy source from a human perspective. But the sun, from a quantum perspective, is symbolic of your soul. Okay? And from a human perspective, when we look at DNA, we call it that because it's very analytical the way we look at it. But from a quantum perspective, DNA and soul are the same thing. The same thing. Okay? Other tools that can do it, and these are tools I've been really getting into here, is tensor rings. Okay? Because what a tensor ring does is, it does what the neutralization ring does. It inverts, because it creates a vortex, a tensor field, a counterclockwise vortex. It creates what a neutralization ring does. But also, through its cubit measure, the length, once you've twisted the wire and then you bring it back on a circle and weld the point, what we call a cubit measure, that's an anchoring of your light to be brought through. And this is your own light, by the way. Okay? So it essentially does what the neutralization ring, the sun ring, but together. Okay? And depending on the cubit measure that you use, depends about how high you want to connect to yourself. Okay? Okay, so modification to DNA. Okay. The first thing I'm going to say about that is it's supposed to happen. Okay? Modification of your DNA is supposed to happen. As I say, the DNA is your soul. And your soul is like on the other end of your interface in this reality. So you're the middle person or middleman between the reality you want to create and what is using the interface. Like, for example, right now, if I'm on my computer, I've got my keyboard here, this is an interface. Right now, I'm using this as an interface to you, to whoever's watching this or listening to it. So I am the user of this interface or this interface. Now, your soul is the user of your interface, which is the human body, to create here. As long as you are connected here, though. You lose control of your own soul, which is you, when you get into the mind, because the mind then connects to other consciousness that have other agendas, including AI. Again, it's just called AI because it's foreign intelligence. It's not you. While your soul and everything that's through there is you. Higher self. So why is it called a self? Because it's you. Okay? So, that's what ascension's about. Evolution and ascension is about light downloads, right? Let's use the analogy of a computer again. We have software on a computer because really, quantum perspective, you as an interface, you're a computer. Okay? So let's look at the analogy of the computer. The computer has software on it, and that software needs to regularly update itself to function vitally. So therefore, the computer will function at its highest potential. Same with us. The more we're connected here, the more we bring through those downloads of those higher aspects of you. And the higher aspects of you aren't above your head. They are within you at a quantum level. Okay? That's why for a long time I used this tool. And I'm going to use this tool as an analogy of that quantum perspective of you. Actually, let's bring the camera down here. Okay, so what we've got here is essentially a 5D cube. So it's not a cube, okay? There's a lot of bad information about cubes. Cubes are the 3D form. This is beyond that, so we can't really call it a cube anymore. It's a bit like saying a pyramid's a triangle, when really it's not. It's made up of a number of triangles, but it's called a pyramid now, right? Okay, so you can see here that there is a cube in here by itself alone, but you'd call it a 3D form, but then it's within a cube, and then that cube is within a cube, and then this cube is within another cube. Now, what is that demonstrating is that the higher potential of you shrinks into you. That's going quantum. When quantum physics looks at beyond the atomic level and look at particles and beyond particles, and they see that there's just vibration of frequency of a field, we are shrinking and shrinking. We're not expanding out to the cosmos. Okay, so the origin of everything and the origin of you is at the quantum level, not expansion up here, but within, okay? And actually, you as the human, you are the expansion. That's why people say you are the universe, because you're an expansion of everything that you are that exists within. Okay, you're a projection of that, especially when you're connected here. You lose your way when you're not connected here, and you get connected in the mind. So that's why the importance of the polarity between mind and consciousness. Okay. So, as I say, in regards to modification of our DNA, we want to be connected to our light, to evolve, right? To have greater knowing and understanding, which therefore creates a state of certainty, which then allows us to heal from love, from our consciousness, not out of fear from the mind. Okay? So we're supposed to have that. And as I say, it's the dynamic of light and field. Field being structured so it can hold the light. Now, genetic engineering, now this is a little bit different, of course, because this is then humans thinking they're God, okay? From a mind perspective, which again is very limited, okay? It's 0.0035% of the electromagnetic spectrum of light. It's nothing. So there's going to be a lot of hit and miss. It's like playing darts and trying to hit the dartboard with no lights on. There's going to be a lot of hit and miss, especially when I'm playing. I'm not a great dart player. And so what we've come to find is that when we are seeing a perspective of our reality in a limited form from the mind, this causes congestion of our field, and congestion creates field to get scrambled and unstructured, which then causes accumulation to occur in the body because you no longer have flow. You're no longer in the flow, which then causes toxicity. And what is toxicity called? Dis-ease and illness. Okay? So flow is the answer. Being in the flow. Because the mind obstructs flow while when we're in the heart space, which we call the sacred heart, one end of a gateway that leads through to your higher selves, to your source self. Now, your higher selves are just souls that are doing exactly the same thing, using interfaces into other realities. Why they are selves? Because you're all connected with the same source of energy. So you have the same energy signature, and hence what we call quantum entanglement, right? And that's a good thing. You want to be all connected because you can share wisdom, information. Okay? So AI, artificial intelligence, as I say, is just to show that it's foreign intelligence from the intelligence you want to be connected to, your own consciousness. Connects to you through the mind. The mind is a port for other intelligence to use you as an interface. Okay? Because you're no longer connected through here to your own consciousness. Okay? So, because out of a limited human perspective, using the mind, we see ourselves as lacking. You know, this mentality of if we need something to improve the world or improve life or improve our health, it has to be something external to us. Okay, we have mentors, we have people that give us inspiration, but it comes down to ourselves, right? Okay. And out of that lack mentality, we feel like we need technology to save us. We need something else that's going to save us. But really, what's going to save us is connecting into the quantum aspects of ourselves through the heart space, because that's the consciousness that resonates with us. Okay? So when we get into genetic engineering, that comes back to, can we reverse what taking the jab or any of these things, they've got nanotechnology or nanoparticles and all these things? Yes, because everything's energy. We need to have the understanding, the knowing that by connecting back into our consciousness and bringing flow, because when we have flow, we don't get congestion of our field, we don't accumulate, and therefore we don't build up toxicity. It's impossible. Because you need field to be congested for that to happen. Okay? So, and there's a greater focus we need to place on what can be changed instead of leaking our energy into what we cannot change out there. Because when we change ourselves, we change our perspective and our perception, which then changes the way that we see reality. And therefore the change happens then, out there. But it's here first, right? Because after all, aren't we quantum healers? Not duality healers. If we're healing out there and focusing out there, we're playing with the game of duality. Don't we want to get rid of it? So it happens in the quantum, which is within, okay? And we need to simplify our understanding. Because when we get more connected to consciousness, we simplify our understanding and knowing of things, which, as I say, brings certainty, a space of certainty or a state of certainty, which allows us then to heal and to create reality from love, not uncertainty, which creates fear from the mind. So that's a very important aspect. So in summary, the symbolic meaning of DNA is more about the environment you create, not something external to you. Let's get out of vulnerability. It's up to you. It's about flow. Being in the flow. The word being, after all, we're human beings, right? Being is a state of being present and being in the now. Okay, but if we're out there, placing all our focus and attention out there, we're doing, we're not being, okay? And by doing that, that brings your light through, which makes you information. I hope you have learned some information from this, and I love to share this information with you guys. Till next time. See you later.